Banana Slam Jam.
Hello, it's BSJ. It's going to be a quick replay analysis, once again, of a 3700 MMR Terrorblade. So, it looks like he had a pretty good game. And whenever we have good games, and I watch replays that people give to me, I usually just try to focus on what they could have done better in the overall grand scheme of it. To be
Anyone here know what a dead
just
lane
more
is?
efficient with the lead that they were
Hey
given.
BSJ, is your
or
penis
whatnot.
big as
So,
a brain?
That's what we'll be doing.
This one's in the bag.
It is, of course, bigger,
Line and sinker.
if that is even possible.
Payday. This one is
Starting items are reasonable. Ring and Trash been nerfed a bit, but I think it's still fine. Obviously, you could just working on CSN in a tower. Not much else to say about that. I think you could probably harass a bit more, but you also have to be very careful of overextending against these two heroes. So I don't really mind what you did with that first meta. I don't mind when you used it either. Yeah, your CSing on our tower needs serious work. It's like really bad, actually. Let me see about what. Let me theory craft what I could tell you here. Okay. So here's how CS Under Tower works. Let's just do math. It's the best way to teach it, I think. 550 health. Towers. Hit for 110 on average, right? There's damage variance. So on average with armor from creeps, melee creeps, right? They have 10% physical resistance. So on average, towers hit for 99 damage. So let's just assume it's 100. So if the creep has 550 health, on average, it'll take 5 tower shots plus 50 or more damage to kill it. Okay, cool. Melee creeps hit for 21. Range creeps hit for 35. BSJ, it says 23. It's piercing damage, so piercing damage is 50% more against creeps. So, creeps, melee, or range creeps hit for 35, minus 10%, hit for 32. Cool. So, if you have 550 health and you're taking 5 tower shots, that means that the range creep, if it hits it twice, will effectively put it to 4 tower shots. See what I'm saying? A range creep plus melee will be close. It'll be 32 plus 18. So it's like really close, right? And that's based on tower damage variance. But let's rewind for a bit. So on this creep, you need to think about what creeps are going to hit this creep. So since it's the closest creep, your range creep is going to hit it. And then the next question is my range creep going to hit it twice, or is it going to hit it once? Because if it hits it once, awesome. Like, watch. If it hits it once, like it just did, you could CS the creep between this range creep attack and the tower attack. But look at how close that window is. So usually what I would have done here is, because I realized this range creep is most likely going to attack twice, I would have hit it once preemptively. Like right when the creep gets into tower range, I would have hit it once. And you see here, if you had hit it once prior and then hit it now, you would have killed it. These are little things to think about. It's exact science, CSing under tower. You need to think about the exact science, and then you need to process what it means for you every CS. And then eventually, these thoughts become feel. Like, you see a creep at an approximate amount of health, and you'll know you have to hit it or not based on how many creeps are going to hit it. But this is something that requires you to think about it initially, and then once you get it down, you just look at the creep and you know. My most basic thing is I check after 2 tower shots. And if the creep's at 350 or less, I know that I need to do 55 damage or more after 3 tower shots. So, technically it's 350 is to 60. So, because of damage from the armor. So, my hero needs to hit for 60 damage or more to reliably kill the creep if it's at 350 or less. That's the thing I've talked about a bajillion times on other guides. And so I like to check creeps when they're approximately half health or 2 tower shots in, right? So, like right here.
Anyone here know what a dead lane is?
Let me rewind. So like this creep's coming under tower here. Can't fucking click it. So it's at 323. So even better so, if it's at 323, I know the tower shots average 100. So after 3 tower shots, it's going to be at 23 health. Which, when this range creep hits it, will kill it. So if I see this, I know I have to hit it. Like, I know I have to hit it to make it so that in 2 tower shots, I can hit it again. Because me plus the range creep will not do 123 damage. So 2 tower shots plus me and the range creep will put it below 50 health, right? But it won't kill it. So then my next attack can kill it. These are just numbers you have to think about. And if you think about them enough, it eventually becomes muscle memory. And you can even do it by eye. Sometimes you have to actually check the exact value because, like, I can tell if the creep's really close to 350, so I don't exactly know. And I'll actually check what its exact health is at this moment. This is stuff I learned watching Arteezy and talking to other players about their exact science behind CSing under tower. So I basically talked about the exact science to other players, and then I watched Arteezy CS under tower, how often he checked the creep's health, what he did when the creep was a specific health. What I mean by what he did was, did he hit the creep? Did he know he couldn't hit the creep in time because he's a hero with a slow attack animation? And if that's the case, he would maybe drag the creeps that are right here to here so that these creeps didn't hit them yet. Like, you can move it so that you can move these creeps to manipulate them to take less damage from creeps. There's all types of options, but you have to manipulate the damage of the creeps or how much damage they are taking underneath the tower according to how much health they have. You just have to. And it's something where I only touched on this because I've literally seen you miss like 7 out of 8 CS under tower as a hero that is really easy to CS under tower with. You should also use illusions because they give you an extra 30% damage on these creeps. So like if you're missing creeps under tower, the last thing you shouldn't be doing is using 30% damage for free and learning to box select and kill the creeps with you and your illusion at the same time. So just efficiency things. You're just missing CS. At the highest level, I'll literally lose games because I missed 10 CS in lane or something. So my point is, I'm bringing to your attention there is an exact science to it, what you can look into yourself, but I'm not going to do all the work for you. Everything else in your lane so far has been very reasonable. You haven't used illusion at all, though, so I would consider that. Especially against 2 heroes that don't kill the illusions. I look at it as an extra 30% damage on your CSing. Overall, enemy team just overcommitted into your hero, so this is good. I honestly think you might have missed too many CS to make that kill worth it. At some point, when the Spearbreaker is running through the trees and you already killed their core, I might have even just prioritized getting all of these denies. Like right here. After you killed their core, you could just, like, you could literally just auto-attack deny, kill this creep. By the time Slaughter gets up, you kill this one because it's almost a half, and then every creep that's getting low, you just auto-attack deny. I think you killing the Spearbreaker is less worth than literally denying this entire creep wave to Slardar, who will be respawning in 13 seconds. It's just bringing it to your attention. Kills, it's all about what you're missing in the meantime. And I also ask myself, if I kill this guy, does it change the lane? In some lanes, if you don't kill the guy, the lane's going to be harder. So you just have to kill the guy. I watched a lot of players to make this decision in every specific matchup. But what weighs into that decision is how much gold am I missing if I go for the kill? And how much does it change my lane if I get this kill? With Spearbreaker being half health, and you having expended virtually no resources to do what you're doing, I don't think it's worth missing 6 denies and potentially 3 to 4 last hits in order to kill the Spearbreaker. It's more so that you already killed their core, and by the time he's alive, this entire creep wave could be dead, and you could have an extra 4 CS. So just something worth considering in every single matchup. I personally think that this kill is not worth it. Because, like, look at the lane when Slardar comes back. And the goal when it comes to getting kills or not is what the lane's going to look like before and after the kills. And I think killing the Slardar was just fine, but then the lane would have been in the best situation if you had killed the Slardar and then worried about lane maintenance. I always call it lane maintenance. Like, it has to be fixed. The Slardar got a lot of CS and levels for that. And it's just like, I think killing him was great, but it was effectively a net very little gain for you. I wouldn't go Wand here. It just doesn't help you farm. You're not going to lane all that much longer. They don't spam spells. You don't need Wand until they have Diffusal on Slark. So if you're going to go Wand, you could maybe just go... if you think you need it for lane, you could go Stick. Later on, you could just buy a Stick. You could just get like double Wraithband treads, you know, Yasha and a Stick. Have specific reasons for the items you're going to buy. Your hero's going to be farming for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And the only reason I would buy Wand is if I thought in order to fight, would occasionally when I do, or in order to lane, I need that item. And I just don't think you do. I don't think you need it. It's a big investment to spend 400 gold on an item that gives you 3 all stats instead of on an item that gives you 11 attack speed and 6 damage, right? It adds up on heroes like Terrorblade especially, who only CS with auto attack. You should definitely be using illusions to do what you're doing. At this point, I would say you're strong enough to start increasing your own efficiency over anything else. I don't mind if you're going for denies in the midst of going for CS, but you should be killing the enemy wave as fast as possible and playing for your own game. When you're playing against heroes like Slark, you should care about your own game more so than anything. Terrorblade is not a Slark. He's not a lifestealer. He is not a hero that once he gets a lead, he makes his lane unapproachable. Like, you have to think about this, right? If you're a CK, if you're a lifestealer type hero, sometimes it's best to just keep the lane back because what your hero does is threaten kills. Your kill threat is so high that if the opponent walks up, they just die. Terrorblade does not work like that. He simply does not. So usually when you get a lead on these heroes, you have to behave differently. On Terrorblade, the way to behave is to push in the lane and protect yourself by giving yourself the information with the lane pushed and forcing reactions to you by virtue of the lane being pushed, not because you're a kill threat. And to stay in the lane as long as you can doing that. But like if you watch good Terrorblade players, if they win their lane's going to be shoved into the opponent tower as they clear jungle creeps in between. That's what it's going to look like. And they'll leave when they feel in danger, but since you're in a good matchup, and you're in a low MMR bracket, you'll probably be able to stay much longer than most high-level player Terrorblades would be able to do. It's usually around 5 to 7 minutes that you begin to capitalize on any lead or play against a lead in the lane. So in this case, you should have already been summoning an illusion. You're full mana, so the efficiency factor there is really bad. And you should be beginning to push the wave. It also has to do with this magic wand. I told you ahead of time it's going to be useless, and you should learn to think why you would buy a magic wand. And if that situation, if the game itself doesn't look like that, then you shouldn't buy it in that similar situation again. Like, I think that big camp should have been farmed on the 6 minute to 7 minute mark. I don't know why you're denying creeps. You're leaving yourself in lane as a Terrorblade. I don't know why you're doing that. If you're going to stay in lane against this guy, use Metamorph. Spam illusions. Your efficiency factor is very low. Utilize your hero's toolkit to expand his farm. So if you really notice, you're like 50-50ing tower pressure and jungling. Like you're 50-50ing lane equilibrium, tower pressure, and jungling. You need to commit one way or the other, period. Like there is just no option for middleman. Or not middleman. There's no like best of both worlds. You're either heavily pushing the tower by pushing it with meta, or you're pushing in the lane and jungling. Like those are the two choices. Nowhere in between. Make up your mind. That is like the only issue I have with this. If you want to pressure the tower and you end up dying for it, great. Like, you learned something. If you want to pressure the tower and you end up taking the tower, great. You learned something. If you want to push in the lane and jungle, but you realize maybe you could have taken the tower after you saw them rotate, and you're like, oh shit, I maybe could have taken this tower. Great, you learned something. But you committed to a game plan. You're literally in the middle of 2 different game plans, and it makes no sense watching it. Like, I hope you can understand when I'm watching, it's like, wow, I'm doing a little bit of everything instead of a whole lot of one thing. And usually it's always better to commit to one or the other. I would say almost always.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
My rift reward. Illusion.
Is missing.
Okay, so we use meta. This is fine. Your team's playing around you. It's like, if I don't have meta, I'll probably play really passively in lane and farm jungle and defend. If I have meta, I'll do this, right? This is good.
Radiant's middle tower.
You're definitely never pressuring a tier 2
Radiant's middle
here.
tower is under attack.
So you gotta be careful about that. I can only say you're not pressuring tier 2 because they have such high kill threat on you. And if you just keep that lane shoved out, they'll never kill you. This is a situation where there's no reason to bring your real hero here. If that was a hero that could kill your illusions but not you, that's a great time to bring your hero here. When I talk about like dead lane farm and all that kind of stuff, the reason why it's awesome for a support to take it if they can is because it's dangerous farm. It's a valuable resource on the map to consume, and if you can have a really weak support take the farm, that's great. Like, you're dedicating a support to do a job that needs to be done, and it's really like efficient for your team that it's getting done. It's the same thing on illusion heroes to farm creep waves. Like, your illusion is a lesser value version of yourself, right? Like, doesn't that make sense? So if your illusion can clear a wave, why the hell is your actual hero there? Like, that doesn't make sense. So think about it that way. Like, the same way that a support can take dangerous farm and it's great to use less resources to do the same thing, treat illusion heroes the exact same way. Like, you could be farming an ancient camp with your actual hero and then farming the lane with your illusions, right?
Radiant's middle tower
Dominating
is under
versus Gabe
attack.
Newell. Thanks for playing Dota 2. Double kill.
Like, this camp should have been killed before the 13-minute mark and then killed again after 13 minutes. And then you could have potentially rotated back bottom. But now you have 2 supports that took over the bottom lane. That's great. Like, if they want to do that. I don't think this TP is good. Your farming rotations are super awkward. So what I mean by this is at 12 minutes. So right here, if you had used your actual hero to clear the wave bottom, what that means, if you're farming the dead lane, what that means is that your responsibility is to relieve pressure, and you're supposed to push out the lane anytime you can, and you're supposed to make it so the rest of your team doesn't have to show up. So what happens here is if your illusions are clearing the wave and your hero's clearing the jungle, then after you clear these jungle camps, you're then presented with a very clear decision. Do I walk back to the lane, like towards the lane because I want to keep farming this part of the map, or am I going to migrate my way to the top half of the map in order to create pressure? Those are your 2 decisions. It's a very clear-cut decision. But when you're being inefficient like this, like you're having your hero do things you don't have to do, suddenly all your timings are out of whack. Suddenly the time where you could be going to lane or not is like you're actually making a decision between jungle camps and lane rather than all of it being cleared. Instead of choosing between what lane you're going to, you're now choosing, am I jungling or am I laning? Which isn't a decision you should have to make when you're this farmed. So right here, like if you just cleared the ancient camp, your natural rotation would have been to go from ancient camp to here, and then at that point you'll be left with, okay, now that I've cleared all these camps, do I go mid or do I go bottom? Like towards, like what am I going to next, right? And in this case, you might have even cleared the ancient camp, cleared this camp, and then seen that mid lane was pushing in. And then you could have walked towards mid. You don't want to be here. I want to be very clear. Your hero doesn't want to be here, ever, if you don't have to be. The only reason you're here is by necessity. So in any situation that you can avoid being in your own dead lane, it just makes no sense to be there. I think you could have easily, at the 12-minute mark, gone to Ancients, then to medium camp, and then cleared that middle wave, and your illusions would have accomplished the exact same thing. So the map, instead of looking like it does, would have had mid lane pushed in, 2 jungle camps gone. This lane would look the exact same. And so the effective gain would be 2 jungle camps and a mid lane pushed in, which is massive. Like, that is a huge amount of efficiency you are missing. I don't really mind the Glove of Haste. I wouldn't go it, but if you want to do that, like, I've heard crazier things. See, like, now you're on this awkward spot where the jungle camps are now respawning, and you're having to choose between a lane or jungle. And then the rotation you should have potentially been able to be there for by walking is now you TPing to your own safe lane, which is, like, super fucking awkward. It's just weird. Like, it just doesn't work that way. If you find yourself TPing like this, you usually fucked up your farming prior to it. That's a really best explanation I got there. You definitely should have just been walking there at some point. And if you weren't walking there, you shouldn't be there. On heroes like Terrorblade that are, like, protect themselves by pushing out lanes, I pretty much will never TP to my own safe lane. Pretty much never. I think you'll be better in the long run if you never TP to your own safe lane. And if you do end up having to TP to your own safe lane, check what you did prior to it and see, like, was there a way I could have avoided having to do that with my farming patterns. Once again, the job you were doing could have just been an illusion there, so you could have farmed, like, this camp and this camp while continuously sending illusions to mid. Which is what you're doing now, so that's good. I don't think it's the best that you're showing up to this fight without meta, but now that you have meta and you've seen the fight break out, I think this is fine. A little bit awkward, but it's not perfect. I think your overall rotation here is reasonable. People are primarily focusing on SNY, and I think you could do the same in this game. I don't think you need a Manta. Isn't really necessary. It removes Slardar Amp, but if you play the map properly, you don't really need to worry about Slardar Amp because of the fact that you can just summon illusions. And then Slardar Amp, we've talked about it. Minus armor doesn't counter armor. Does Terrorblade really care if he goes from 30 armor to 22? Not really. So I would much prefer SNY in general on Terrorblade. People seem to prioritize it. I would probably just go SNY Butterfly here. I'd go SNY Butterfly Satanic. I think that's the clear build here against all right-click damage, and SNY is just super good against stuns. So
Dire's top tower is under attack.
once again, find yourself TPing to your own safe lane. I would have been using illusions to continuously pressure that top lane. You have to recognize that Slardar can't do shit against your illusions. Okay. So if you're forced to TP to your own safe lane, you need to make sure on these carries that you are making your way back top as soon as possible. So you have kind of farmed your way there, but you're still not spamming illusions. So you just need to work on your illusion efficiency. I don't see a reason to ever go to lane if there's jungle camps to be farmed. So, like, you finish this, just send an illusion top. It'll give you a lot of information. Like, it's 19 minutes. Just send your illusion to top. Make them respond to the illusion, right? And clear jungle camps in the meantime. You're presenting your hero on the map for no reason. Like, if this was a closer game or a harder Terrorblade game, you showing yourself on the map would get you killed at least twice already. So it's like, you're not getting punished because it's a perfect Terrorblade game. What it's telling me is, similar to my own experience, is you wouldn't be able to play Terrorblade in a game where the hero is not the perfect pick, right? Their heroes are pretty bad versus Terrorblade. So, like, if you can't pick the hero unless it's perfect, that means you probably shouldn't, like, you need to grow your understanding of this hero. Just notice how you could have been farming the big camp, and your heroes could have been doing the exact same thing, and you could have had a very natural rotation with your team, not you getting gone on, where it's you there like 15 seconds later. The exact same thing could have happened, but it's just like your illusion setting it up for you rather than your own hero being put at any potential risk. It's stupid of them to make a play on you. That's why this part of the map is good. But yeah, so they're just trying to commit to you, and they all die. Okay.
Killing is great.
We're almost done here. I think I've seen a lot of inefficiencies be mentioned already. I did have a replay analysis of a Terrorblade already. I think you guys need to be very adamant or very persistent about pressuring the top lane on Radiant, pressuring the bottom lane on Dire with your illusions while your hero farms jungle. And your illusions can help you jungle as long as top lane is getting pushed. The exceptions are when, like, their heroes just shred your illusions, and by putting the illusion in lane, it's just gonna die. And usually if that's the case, like, say this Slark hero was up here, and his hero kills your illusions really well, rather than sending illusions from this jungle to here to clear the wave, I would send my illusions to here to cut the next wave. And then even potentially have my hero go farm the wave underneath tower. But, like, if your hero illusions get killed very easily, by virtue of the hero being there, then put illusions in places that they cut waves, such that if the opponent wants to deal with them, they're still inconvenienced because of travel time rather than, like, time spent hitting the illusion. In this game specifically, you can get away with sending your illusion directly down waves because of their heroes, but in general, that's not the case. Your illusions should pretty much never be jungling, is what I've learned. Very rarely is it good for you to farm one camp and your illusion to farm another. Very rarely is that the case. And I would say for your growth as a player in the short term, just don't do it. Don't send your illusions to jungle unless you've literally cleared every single wave in the game. So you're showing up to fights. It's good. Like, your rotations aren't perfect, but we've talked about a lot of the efficiency issues. I think the fact that you're showing up to fights when you are, very straightforward hero to practice farming and fighting with, because when he has meta, he's a super strong fighter. When he doesn't, he's weak. Very straightforward there. So at this stage, I would naturally stay on the top half of the map and have illusions being sent to cut creeps. I would even consider having the illusion go to bottom lane there rather than mid. I like to have illusions farm places that the rest of my team doesn't want to go or that I don't feel safe. So bottom lane would have been the perfect wave to go there rather than mid because you already had heroes sitting mid. Right here, you should be spamming illusions to push out the top lane. It's just slow. Notice how that top lane should be getting pushed. Now your hero has to do it. Micro of illusions pushing down waves, so when you clear a wave, like, so what I do, and I've seen, is that for micro speed purposes, when you summon an illusion, just right-click the minimap where you want it to go. Like, so say you're here, and you want the illusion to go here. Right-click the minimap near that area, so the illusion makes its way there. Then make your hero do something. So, like, then have your hero make sure it's hitting a creep or whatever, or maybe it's walking to the next camp. And then, while your hero is doing something, take the time to give your illusion proper instructions. So, like, have it A-click down the lane, and then shift-click it so that once it kills this wave, it then walks here, right? Like, that's the number one way I've learned to process efficiency on illusion-based heroes or micro-based heroes, is to summon whatever this, like, the micro unit you have, send it somewhere, in the time that it's walking there, issue your hero a command, and then while your hero is now doing something, then proceed to give it more detailed instructions on what to do. I do believe that's about it for this session. I've seen a lot. And you have 300 CS. I could imagine you having even more. I think it would mainly come in the form of lane pressure, that you would see the difference in what you're doing wrong. The opponent will just be losing towers left and right randomly to illusions in your bracket because you'll just be pushing way faster than what they're doing. This was a really good Terrorblade game. And I'd love to see what happens if you played Terrorblade in a not-so-good Terrorblade game. I think that this should definitely just be a Satanic. You don't need stuns. Maybe your lineup needs stuns, but Terrorblade, against those heroes, they have to hit you. Like, their heroes can't kill you from afar. Like, they can't. So they have to be in point-blank range to kill you. And at that point, your best option is to say, I dare you to come at me, bro, and just man the fuck up on them. Like, that's all you gotta do. Like, against these types of heroes here, Slark, Slardar, Monkey King, I dare you to come running at me. So that's why I would have gone SNY, Butterfly, Satanic, and then after that, maybe BKB, maybe Scotty, maybe just a Daedalus. I actually probably would have just gone Daedalus here. So yeah, that's how I would envision this game. And Abyssal's just not necessary. You don't need it this game. If they have, like, int spellcasters, that's a bit different. Maybe Abyssal's good. But yeah. Hope you enjoyed the replay analysis.